in our work over time, clients get well. We wouldn't do this job otherwise. It takes time. It does take time, always time. And there are no quick fixes, but change does happen. Our work is with the shadows presented to us with mind, body, and spirit. Yeah, spirit or soul, just you can sit with that on what side of the fence or the robin where you want to sit with that. The spirit soul is often missing or forgotten about in our training, in our clinical work. And we must acknowledge the overlap between psychosocial and spiritual dimensions in our work. All beings have a yearning for something higher, that higher. And only when we, they, us, are in a safe space of calm, regulated by breath. So it's back to the breath. When we are regulated by breath, when our nervous system is regulated, our sense of spiritual connection with humanity, whatever that might be for the client or yourself, is at its highest. And major life events, world events, lockdowns, pandemics, wars, the environment, everything, the list's huge. Often who we thought we were no longer defines us. Age, mortality. And people are searching more and more for more fulfillment in their lives. I love this quote from Maya Angelou about spirit soul, that actually when things were very bad, his soul just crawled up. Let me read this out correctly, not off that. When things were very bad, his soul just crawled behind his heart and curled up and went to sleep. Yeah. And we're really in our work, you know, as therapists, the body's just becoming like a new thing that we're talking about. I've been doing this for years and only now it's sort of the momentum's there. We are a good way off. People talk, this is me, I will keep doing this, but where we're talking about the spirit and the soul as part of our work. And I'm connecting this directly with the body, directly with the breath, and directly with the nervous system. Because little permission has been given to us to explore a person's spiritual life and what might be important to them. And this need and their needs in our work as therapists. The predominant theory has always been the mind as the governor, quite masculine, of how things are. But I believe that the spirit or the soul has been hiding behind the body all the time. It's there all the time. So just as Maya described, but we do change. And Clarissa Pinkola Estes talks about one of her stories in her book, The Women Who Run with Wolves, which if you haven't read it, is the only book I'd ever recommend for anyone to read. And one of her stories, La Loba, and is it La Loba Spanish for wolf? I think, I don't know. Does anyone speak Spanish? Maybe put it in the chat. That babies are born wise with instinct. They know instinctively what is right, what to do. And there is a point when our clients know in their bones what is right to change, to come to therapy. And over time in our work, our clients' nervous systems begin to feel more steady, less extreme from the shifting from a hyperarousal state to a lower, more depressed state. So it's in a moment, in a flash, there's a middle place, something lighter. They experience what the window of tolerance feel like just for a second, to feel calm, maybe peaceful, to connect with something that's in their story, in their narrative. Just think about what your clients may bring, where they feel safe, whether that's nature, whether that's with an animal. And it's always different. They start to notice their nervous system, safer places, people, nurture and have compassion for themselves. And this is only the start. These spaces might be familiar to them or completely new to them. So they might start going to the gym or a yoga class and enjoy that. They might never have been to these places before, but we are witness to this in the work that we do. in the work that we do. So in our therapy rooms, this is where the signs of the spirit and soul show up. They will always show up. So whether this is religion, and religion has many different meanings, or more spiritual, and we'll explore this in a second, but we see it. And the quote by Viktor Frankl that I'm sure you're all very familiar with is, in some ways, suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds a meaning. There is change that happens. Nick Totten says that as human beings, we are inebriated body, mind, and spirit. And on the whole, we find these conditions hard to manage, very hard to manage. Carl Rogers, the founder of Person Centered, highlights really existential questions with clients about their journeys and that they have survived and they have options and choice for change, and asks, you know, what is my goal in life? What am I striving for? We move through. My work is about highlighting wellness, healing, what we need to do. But yes, we bring science in. The breath fits with this. When we feel steady, So the voice of the soul, there is always an awakening when there has been a crisis in our lives. You will think of your clients when they change, that energy is different. You're not as tired with them. A spiritual emergency or some breakdown happens, and there are moments when people who have never believed in God or any higher power, religious or spiritual, something that bad happens and they fall to their knees and cry, God, please help me. And darkness will always lead to light. We see this every day in our work, every day. And we have to sit in a lot of darkness. So there's a lot of research around spirituality, religion, and where this plays a part in healing, really giving people another space to be. So religion, it can, lots of buildings, scriptures, rules, that might be a space for people. And spirituality, again, is open. What does that mean? What does that mean, spirituality? So it often tends to be more spontaneous, associated with love, inspiration, wholeness, mystery, personal devotion, nature. Wildness is often very important in our work. How we regulate. Think about the spaces where you can regulate, where your clients regulate. Is it swimming? Is it being at the beach? Think about the spaces where your clients regulate. So this is a really, really big area, but the path to spirituality for most people has involved struggles, suffering, and pain. Yet what they get from this is a sense of peace, wholeness, and balance, often including the breath. Most spiritual activities include movement, and again, this can be walking, dancing. They're getting a bit of serotonin. They're moving their bodies, moving their fascia, breathing, regulating. Okay. So this can appear in many different spaces. Yeah, tiny sparks that I'd like, these charged moments. Please just reflect on who's coming to mind here. When they regulate, when they're more steady. This might be when therapy's ending as well. So there's emotion there. Joy, wonder. I'd like you also to reflect. We don't have much time. This is a hugely big area, and I run this as a separate workshop. Water plays a big part in a lot of narratives for people when they are getting well. It appears in lots of my work. And each time I enter the room, I'm often a little bit shocked that, oh, there's the water again. And water comes in many forms. What its meaning is for the client. Whether it's religion, whether it's swimming, whether it's being near water, the healing power of water appears in many narratives of change. And according to Carl Jung, water is the most common archetypical system of the unconscious. and all religions hold a reverence for it. In Islam, there's something called the primordial water, where the origin of life comes from, full potential, purifying, cleansing the outer body. Think about newborn babies in water, or adults being baptized, fully emerge, becoming reborn. In the Hindu religion, water has spiritual cleansing powers. In Sikhism, ashes are scattered in rivers, a part of rebirth. In Judaism, there's a custom to pour out water on hearing the news of a death. Very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. We might even see in our clients that they just want to go and sit by the ocean, take a swim, have a shower, have baths. So just think about what it means for your clients to believe in something, because they move to this state, whether it's cooking, art, dancing, spending time with their grandchildren, gardening, whatever. It's always different, but there'll always be roots of this spirit soul in the early days of therapy. And I'd ask you to get curious about that and hear, and even create a space for that soul spirit to be. Really, at the beginning, the first session, is there anything spiritually or religious that is important to you? However you want to phrase that, just to give them a space to bring that. They may not bring it, they might bring it, but you've created some space for that. So when we regulate, because change happens, we wouldn't do this job. Okay, so there's something that I think is wonderful when clients become more steady during therapy and choose to be in those places. Think about yourself, the spaces you like to be in. The spaces where we are very small usually. I like to be in the ocean, or near the ocean, under a big sky, or near a big mountain, something big, much bigger than me, much bigger. When we're in these places where we feel good and safe, we are creating an embodied state of mind, body, and spirit. Awe and wonder, beautiful words, awe and wonder enter our worlds. A numinous experience is what Rudolf Otto called it. And it underlies all religions and spirituality. And it has three components. The first one is I'll probably say them wrong, but I'll have a go. Mysterium, right? Numinous is wholly other, something that is entirely different from anything we experience in ordinary life. It may be something that takes your breath away. It evokes a reaction of silence, a moment. Tremendum provokes terror because it presents itself as overwhelming power. And fascination, something that is merciful and gracious. These experiences arouse spiritual and religious emotions when we're steady. Nervous system, steady, the breath. It might be the birds, the sounds of the world where we are connected. And this shows up in really different ways. And I'd like you to think how it might show up in your work. I know there's a lot of people work, like younger people I'm working with, and they talk about manifestation, and they've got the manifestation board and they're doing these things. Or a client will talk about that they've seen, I think I've got some examples here, that they've seen a robin. Here we go. They'll say, oh, this weird thing just happened. Or I keep seeing my numbers in different places, my lucky numbers, but there's a space for them to bring that. And I'll say, oh, what's your lucky number? Recently, a client, we did this, and she said 3 and 33. And the clock was 13:33 when she looked on the thing. It was, but these things happen. And it's how we're creating a space for this. The white feathers falling from the sky, the robin at the window, or the robin appearing. What does that mean? Or they'll say, my dad's favorite song keeps coming on the radio. I went to this place, and a person that I went to school with who knew me as a child just happened to be there. So this steadiness, this connectedness, this spirit, soul, when we breathe and become connected, healing, maybe this is, things happen.